Welcome to Love Your Life After Divorce, the podcast where you'll learn everything you need to know to rebuild your life after divorce from the inside out. Let's dive in. Hey there, friend. Happy last week of 2024. I cannot believe it's almost 2025. It's just crazy. But today we're going to dive in and talk about happiness, specifically how you can create your own happiness after divorce. I mean, happiness is something we all want, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be happy? Especially after you've gone through something really challenging or emotionally draining, like a divorce. You just want to feel better. And it would be amazing if you could actually truly be happy. The Dalai Lama said, "The purpose of our lives is to be happy." But what really brings us happiness? How do we get it? That is what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to explain to you how to find and create happiness for yourself after divorce. But first, let's talk about the inaccurate views that people have about happiness. Happiness isn't something that you either just have or you don't. It's not like some lucky people have been blessed with this gift of happiness and other people just haven't and they're just destined to miss out. But that's honestly how a lot of people view it. They think that happiness is just this elusive thing, that it's hard to get, definitely hard to keep. And a lot of people try to attain happiness mainly through changing something externally about their lives. They think if I can just get that job that I really want, or that promotion, if I just made over 100K or over 500K, then I would really be happy. If I just had a partner that really loved me and just treated me well, then surely I would be happy. If my kids would just listen and follow directions, and if my teenager would stop lying and smoking weed, then I would really be happy and content. So I think this is a pervasive way to view happiness that is not accurate and that just causes us to keep chasing the next thing. If I could just get the next thing, then I'll finally be happy. If I could just attain that goal that I've been wanting for a while, then I will just be happy. And as we can see in our own lives and the lives of other people, this is just not true. The truth is, your circumstances do not create your happiness. And I want to share a brief example from my own life because I think a lot of you can maybe relate to this. So, back in, I think, 2008, the housing market crashed. And at the time, my ex husband was in the residential building industry for his job. And so he lost his job. And at the time, I was a stay at home mom with 3 young kids. And so for several months, money was really tight. And it also just happened that our car totally died. Like the engine blew up in the car we had at the time. And so we were very fortunate to have a family member loan us or give us actually money to get a new car. I've thought about that so many times. If we did not have a supportive family who had the financial means to help us out at that time, who knows what would have happened. But luckily for us, we were able to make it through. We were actually on WIC at that time, which is the government program to help women and children. So we got free food from the grocery store, certain items. And so I tell you that just to let you know, we were really strapped, like hardly being able to pay our bills. But like I said, luckily we were able to make it through. My ex-husband got a new job and we were able to, get into a much better financial position. And then a few years after that, we decided to sell our house because the homes had really appreciated in value at that point, and we needed a little more room. I think I was either pregnant with our fourth or we had just had him at the time. And so we decided that it would be a great decision to sell our house and get a different house. And so as we were looking at homes and driving around and looking at different neighborhoods, we entered this beautiful neighborhood, and I immediately thought, well, there's no way we can, afford to live here. But we went ahead and looked at the model home, and it was beautiful, and we loved it. And we did some crunching of the numbers and we decided this is slightly outside our budget, but if we can make a little more money, like we can make this work. And I remember being very nervous, but my ex-husband assured me it would be fine. We could handle it. And he was right. We could. So we got this beautiful new, brand new home that we got to move into. And I just felt incredibly lucky and blessed. And it was just one of those times in my life where there was something that I saw that I wanted that I assumed was out of my reach and that I couldn't have. But it was almost like imagining, but if I could have that thing, oh, then I would be so happy. It would just be amazing. That would be like a dream come true. So then we get this beautiful new house in a neighborhood that I didn't really anticipate living in. And yeah, for a while, it kind of made me happy. And I was definitely happy with the house. I liked the neighborhood. It had a great pool. And so there were good things about it. But a few years later, it really hit me because I was driving, turning into this beautiful neighborhood that had this really nice entrance, where they had these beautiful stone, I don't even know what they're called, but stone archways, kind of like beside the road when you drive in, and these beautiful hydrangea bushes that were just so manicured, and it just looked so nice. And I drove in and I thought, I'm not happy here. Like this environment, it isn't making me happy because I was unhappy with my marriage. I was unhappy with a lot of things about the dynamic of my life. And so living in that neighborhood, having that nicer house, it did not make me happy. And I'm sure you've probably experienced similar things where you thought that if you had a certain circumstance in your life, if you were able to attain a certain thing or buy a certain purse or some shoes or a certain outfit, if you only had that, then you would finally feel content and happy. And it just doesn't work that way. On the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm sure you've heard stories, or maybe you've even experienced it yourself, where you have visited a developing country where people don't have all the luxuries and amenities that we have here. And if you've been in that circumstance, or if you've heard about it from someone else, people are living in situations where they're just barely getting their basic needs met and they are still happy. They may have a dirt floor and only enough food for a few days at a time, and they're content. And so, again, it just shows that our circumstances are not what make us happy. So, what does? If it's not our circumstances, if it's not these external things about our lives, if being married in and of itself doesn't make us happy, if having a certain house or a certain car or your kids going to a certain school, if none of that makes us happy, then what does? First, I want to read you a few quotes. And I want you to pay attention to these quotes and see if you can identify the common theme running throughout these quotes. Abraham Lincoln said, "Most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." Epictetus said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." An unknown person said, "When you love what you have everything you need." Goldie Hawn said, "The only thing that will make you happy is being happy with who you are." Alice Walker said, "Don't wait around for other people to be happy for you. Any happiness you get, you've got to make yourself." And then Walt Disney said, "Happiness is a state of mind. It's just according to the way you look at things." And so if you haven't figured it out yet by these quotes, the truth is that your thoughts create your feelings. What you think about yourself and your life are actually what produce a feeling of happiness. So then the question becomes, how do we cultivate thoughts that create happiness for us? And I want to offer and explain to you that this is a skill that you can absolutely develop. Again, it's not that some people are just capable of happiness and others are not. If happiness comes from our thoughts, well, we're all thinking thoughts, right? All humans are thinking thoughts all the time. And so I want you to think about cultivating happiness for yourself as a practice. as a skill that you're building, as something you do to take care of yourself and to tend to your mental and emotional health. Just like you brush your teeth every day, I want you to think about cultivating your own thoughts, creating your own happiness as a self care practice, just like brushing your teeth. You don't eat one salad and expect to lose weight, or exercise once and expect your body to look different. We all know that things like that take time and effort to change. And the same is true for our thought patterns, for the way that we think about ourselves, the way we think about our lives. It is a process and it does take being intentional. But I just want to offer you today a very simple 3-step process for creating happiness for yourself with your own thoughts. So, the very first step is awareness. You have to be aware of what you're currently thinking and specifically which thoughts you're having that are a barrier to your happiness. What thoughts are you having that make you feel the opposite of happy? Whether that's just unhappy or sad or irritated or depressed or defeated. So, first, you have to become aware of what those thoughts are so that you can see what your current thoughts are creating for you. Because if normally you don't feel a lot of happiness or contentment or joy in your life, then it's because you're thinking lots of thoughts that are giving you other emotions. And so, step 2 is to choose new thoughts that make you feel happy. So, I want to tell you a little trick. You can try on thoughts just like you can try on clothes. Just experiment. Like you can literally do this right now while you're listening to this podcast. So, for example, I want you to try on this thought. How do you feel when you think, I wasted years of my life in an unhappy marriage? So just think that right now. I wasted years of my life in an unhappy marriage. When you have that thought, I'm guessing you feel angry or sad or grief or loss. And so now I want you to try on a different thought. How do you feel when you think everything happened exactly like it was supposed to? Just try that thought on and let me know what comes up for you. When you think everything happened exactly like it was supposed to, you might feel content. You might feel hopeful. You might feel peace. Or you might feel irritation or resistance or disbelief or anger. And if you feel something like those things that I just mentioned, it's because you don't believe that thought. This is the problem with, I guess you would call it toxic positivity. But when people try to think thoughts that are not believable to them, like if you've ever tried to say a mantra that some expert told you to say, and it just did not work for you, it's because that thought didn't evoke a certain emotion in you. That thought might have been completely unbelievable to you. Developing a new thought and creating emotions on purpose with our thoughts requires that you actually believe the thought that you're thinking. Now, you don't have to believe it 100%, but you need to believe it a lot. You need to believe it at least probably 80%. So let's try on one more thought. How about this thought? My life is getting better. So when you think that thought, my life is getting better, again, it might make you feel optimistic or excited or peaceful, or it may be completely unbelievable to you. If you really don't think that your life is currently getting better, then that thought is not going to land for you. That's not going to be a good thought for you to try to think if it doesn't even feel remotely true. And so just remember, when you're choosing thoughts to think on purpose, when you are deciding what thoughts to think to create happiness for yourself, just be aware of 2 important things. One is that you believe the thought, at least 80%. And the second thing is that it makes you happy. If you're trying to create happiness, then you need to double check and make sure that the thoughts you're choosing to think actually cause you to feel happy. So, for me personally, some thoughts that create happiness for me are my children know without a doubt that I love them as much as humanly possible. Like, I really believe that my kids know that I love them the best way I can, as unconditionally as possible. And that makes me happy because that's what I want. I want them to know that I love them. Another thought that makes me feel happy is that I have several really good friends who love me, who care about me, who are loyal and supportive, who I can go to when I need them or when I just want to spend time with them, who are there for me. I have amazing friends, and thinking that thought makes me happy. So, those are just a few examples from my own life of thoughts that really make me happy. They may be completely different for you, and it doesn't matter truly what they are. A thought that makes you happy might be, I love drinking my peppermint mocha coffee in the morning. You may really look forward to that ritual. You may enjoy the feeling of warmth on your hands and down your throat. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be necessarily super deep and meaningful, like about your kids or your friends, like the examples I gave. Any thought that evokes and creates a feeling of happiness within you, then you can think that thought to make yourself feel happy. So, step number three in this little simple three-step process is just to practice thinking these thoughts that you've identified that make you happy. You can do this in a lot of different ways. You could write down these thoughts on note cards and you could stick them around somewhere on your refrigerator, on your computer, on your mirror in your bathroom. Or you could just journal about these thoughts. You could write them down and kind of dwell on them and let them fill you up with happiness. You can also just practice thinking them, especially when you find yourself feeling unhappy, feeling sad, feeling down, defeated. Then you can use those feelings as a reminder to switch over and to like redirect your brain to think about those thoughts that you identified that will make you happy. So you can just practice thinking those happy thoughts in the moment when you're not feeling happy and you want to be. You can just redirect your brain. You can be like, hey, remember this thought that I identified that I know will make me happy? So just remember that your thoughts are the main source of your happiness. And honestly, this is such good news. It's good news because who's in charge of your thoughts? You are. So you don't have to outsource your happiness to circumstances that are beyond your control. So many people do this, and it makes me so sad for them because, they're giving away all their power. They're saying, well, if this one thing in my life was different, then I could finally be happy. And guess what? They almost have no control over that thing. And so they feel stuck. They feel like they have no choice. They feel like they're destined just to be sad and depressed and lonely all the time because this one circumstance may not ever change. Realizing that you are in control of what you're thinking and that you can think thoughts on purpose to make yourself feel happy, that is just, it's life-changing. When you really fully embrace that truth and you start practicing that, your life will change. Like it has happened for me so much over the past couple of years as I've been really intentional about focusing on what I'm thinking and choosing what to think on purpose. It has literally changed my life and so many lives of other people that I know and so many of my clients' lives. It's just such a simple concept, but it's such a life-changing concept. And that's why I'm just excited to share this with you this week because everybody deserves to feel happy. And so as you go throughout this next week, just notice what thoughts create happiness for you. And then be intentional about cultivating those thoughts. Be intentional about thinking those thoughts more often. Remind yourself that you have a lot more control over how you feel than maybe you've realized you have. Use this tool, use this knowledge that you now have that you can create a life that you love living after divorce because you can create your own feelings. You can create a feeling of happiness for yourself at any time, regardless of your circumstances. Yes, hard things may be happening for you. I'm not saying to ignore or pretend like things are just all rainbows and daisies all the time. But you always get to choose how to direct your thoughts. You always get to choose how you want to show up for yourself. You get to choose what to focus on at any time. You may have 10 things happening in your life that you think are causing you to feel unhappy, but there may be 20 things that could be causing you to think thoughts that create happiness for yourself. So just remember that you have a choice, that you have a lot more agency over your own happiness than maybe you've realized you do. So enjoy this coming week of making yourself happy. If you're feeling lost, overwhelmed, or unsure of how to move forward after your divorce, I've created a free guide just for you. It's called the 5 Stages of Divorce Recovery, and it lays out the roadmap to help you heal, rebuild, and love your life after divorce. This guide is packed with insights and actionable steps that will take you from grieving to embracing your future with confidence. Click the link in this podcast description, and the free guide will be delivered straight to your inbox.